Let's tackle a collection of images as a way to see how Adobe Bridge can help you organize and clean up your image library. I've launched Adobe Bridge through Photoshop, File, Browse in Bridge, and I'm going to maximize. I'll navigate to the Assets folder, which I always copy to my desktop, to the Lesson 4 folder, and to the Sort folder. And before we dig in too deeply, I'm going to arrange Bridge in a way that makes organizing easiest for me. I call this the Kelly layout. I'll take every panel over on the right side and click and drag them all down to the lower left by their actual name. So I'm clicking and dragging on the word metadata, clicking and dragging on the word keywords, and I did preview first. Now I can go to this darker gray area until my cursor changes to double-sided arrows and double-click to collapse that, or I can simply click and drag to the right. This gives me valuable screen space in order to see the content, which is my thumbnails. I can make this content larger by sliding up to the right. And I always like to split my screen about half with preview and half with content or thumbnails. So I clicked the P that I could see where preview was, and I'll drag it to roughly half of my screen. I'll finish this off by making images 4 across. And finally, I don't like the favorites layout because it doesn't show me exactly where I am. I prefer the folders layout. That way you could see where I navigated into this sort folder. I can also collapse the desktop and see all mounted drives or my entire computer. So you can navigate anywhere to any drive inserted, any server volume, any disk. I'll collapse that and go back to my sort folder. Finally, I'll double-click the Word folders so I can focus on clicking one image and getting a nice large preview. When I'm happy with the layout, I will choose Window, Workspace, New Workspace, and name this Kelly. And once I name it Kelly, this will be part of my workspaces that I can always switch to when I launch Adobe Bridge. So let's begin. Scrolling through this series of images, I can see that I've got several of my pug Capone. And I'm going to make some folders over here on the left. If double-clicking folders doesn't expand it, you'll have to look carefully for this thin dark line, and I can stretch it and actually see my sort folder. I noticed that I have pictures of me. I picked the widest variety I could. Pictures of my boy, Roman, and pictures of my girl, Scarlett. Finally, there's a few that are brother and sister. So I'm going to start by making new folders through Adobe Bridge. Bridge can be thought of as a replacement for your operating system whenever it comes to organizing your images. So I'll name this one Scarlett. I'll do another new folder, name it Kelly. A third new folder, name it Pug. And finally, 2 folders, one for Roman and one for brother and sister. I often use the letter N instead of writing out and because it keeps my file names short. I also never use a space in a file name or folder name because it's not web compliant. And sometimes when sending files through FTP, a space in a folder name or file name may make them not show up at all on the other end. So let's begin by organizing the Pug folder. I can click this triangle to expand the sort folder and see where everything is going to go. I'll start first by selecting with a click and a shift click these 6 images that are of the pug, and I'll scroll down and see if there are any more with dogs in them, and there aren't. So I'll choose Tools, Batch Rename, and last time I was renaming, I was forcing the case to either uppercase or lowercase. This time, I'm going to do a custom name of text and type pug. Some web designers will also keep everything all lowercase. That's your call. That's most important if you're doing action scripting or Java scripting. The next field will be a sequence number. So I hit the plus sign to add a field, and I'll do sequence number. And all of these have less than 100 items, so I always choose 2 digits. There's a sample of my file name. I'll hit rename, and then simply drag and drop the pug into the pug folder. Now I'll select pictures of me using my Control key to select the non-adjacent or non-touching items. And I think this one I'll put in my folder since I'm the larger, no pun intended because I'm expecting there, but the larger person in this shot. As I look down, Control click, or if you're a Mac user, Command click will let me select things that aren't in a row. And this one is me and my mother, but I'm going to organize it with a folder for me. So again, Tools, Battery Name, name this Kelly. I always like the underscore instead of a space, and I'll start the sequence numbering over at 1 and click Rename. Then I could drag and drop them into the Kelly folder. Now before I finish, this shot and this shot contain other people. So what I'll do is click once right on the file name and name this Kelly and Roman. You don't have to uppercase that. My mother's always saying they make medication for that, but I feel better now that I did. And this one, I'll click and I'll do Kelly and Cass. Or some people would leave out the N altogether and just do Kelly, Cass, or Cass, Kelly, the order they appear. Good. And I could, if these are just by themselves, and I wanted them to be sorted in order, go back to Tools Batch Rename. I used Command or Control to select the images again. I'll keep the naming scheme the same, but just start them over at 1 and hit Rename. And now if I choose View, Sort by file name, they sort in order with the numbered first, then the other 2 alphabetically. So I'll come back over to the left, and I've got a few more to clean up. I'll select the shots of the girl, using Control or Command to select non-adjacent or non-touching items. And there's a few that will be brother and sister, so when they both occur, I'll skip them. I missed on that one. And then I'll do Tools, Batch Rename. Her name is Scarlett. Starting at 1 again. And this time, I'll actually move them while renaming. So I'll hit Browse, and in the Sort folder, I'll say when I rename, go exactly to the Scarlett folder. And click OK. Click Rename. They're not only fixed for the file name, but they're moved. And I did forget one here, so I'll drag and drop this one into my folder. And if I want, I could rename it. So we will change the name to Kelly Skier. And that way they sort alphabetically. I'm simply clicking once on the file name and pausing until I see the text is highlighted, so it jumps into rename mode. And doing the renaming this way is exactly the same as doing it at your operating system. Bridge can rename anything on your hard drive, any file, anywhere. Doesn't have to be an image. I've selected this series. I'll skip the ones that are brother and sister, and I'll use my Command or Control to grab the few of Roman by himself. Tools, Batch Rename. Let's browse and put these in the Roman folder as I move them, and name them Roman. Now an important note here, and often I leave mistakes in the recording so that you could see, you can make a mistake too, we're only human, we will, but you could see how to fix them. I accidentally hit Return or Enter with a loose finger that was just running across the keyboard. So one key was hit that shouldn't be, and I didn't get a chance to finish renaming. Batch renaming is not undoable, but it's easy enough to go in and rename them again. Since Return or Enter was hit, they've been renamed and they've been moved, but now I'll select the series and choose Tools, Batch Rename, and type the name I wanted, and start the sequence number over at 1, and click Rename. And I won't bother to do the last ones. You could do those on your own. They would be brother and sister. But hopefully, you'll thank me later for showing you some of these bridge tricks. Learning batch renaming and planning how my images are sorted right when I import them or copy them has made locating images on my hard drive a breeze. And I found years ago, before using Bridge, I was constantly looking for images because I just had bad habits. Go out there and build some good habits using Adobe Bridge to organize your images.